Welcome back to the final cut. On today's episode, we talked to the amazing TV celebrity hairdresser Andrew Barton. Let's hear what Andrew has to say about his amazing career and how he did it. Welcome back to the final cut here at SE1 Studios in London. Wow, we've got a biggie for you. This is it. He's the TV personality hairdresser that we all used to watch on the TV and think, I want to be like him. And he grew up in the same town as me in Barnsley. Without further ado, please welcome the one and only Mr. Andrew Barton.
Hello.
How are you? Hey, listen, but let me just tell you this as well. You know, we've got Barry here, CEO for Fellowship, and we've got David Foster from BarberEVO, co-founder of BarberEVO and SalonEVO. It's the week of your wedding.
It is the week of my wedding.
I'm so excited.
I
didn't
know.
get an invitation, by the way. Apparently, I've read it somewhere. I've read it somewhere. Close family and friends.
That's correct.
Immediate friends.
Get ready on that board meetings when we sit round, because I'm going to terrorise you.
We did have to draw the line at 130 guests, though, as well.
Okay.
And this week I have done something that I never thought would happen to me, and I've absolutely turned into Groomzilla.
We're going to cut straight into it. Pardon the cut.
Oh.
No, I did say cut. I did say cut.
He meant that.
Listen.
Get the word in.
He definitely meant that.
Listen,
Is this going out
I have
after
took
9
a
o'clock?
Tourette's tablet and a slimming tablet.
And neither
have
have
worked. I did repair myself. We're going to leave that one in as well. We're going to go straight into it. And today's episode is all about what we can class as celebrity hairdresser. And you are, whichever way. I know you're quite humble about a lot of the stuff that you've achieved, but it is about that. And I want our viewers to look at, how do we get into it? What hard work is it? It's not just the finished result on 10 years younger and the TV programs you're working on. It's the graft over the years. But I'm going to take you right back, all right? We like to get emotional here on the final cut as well.
Remember, I'm Groomzilla at the moment. I could turn just like that.
I don't want it to snap.
Is it a good time to get you or is it a bad time to get you? Because I was thinking about that there. Like, it might be a good time.
I think
Yeah.
It
it's
might
good.
actually work in our favour for this.
I was on the train coming here today, and I was just working on my speech for the big day. The woman turned around next to me and said, "Are you okay?" Because I was bawling my eyes out,
You know that
practicing my speech.
you know that I'm a phenomenal, amazing presenter, probably the best you've ever worked with. So I do a lot of this after dinner stuff as well.
So
So
humble.
if you need a few tips afterwards, I'll spend some time with you in green room and do it. But first question to you is, what was life growing up for our new viewers? Bear in mind, we're all about the next gen of people coming in. So
Yeah.
if they've not seen Andrew before, and you know, I know a lot of our audience know you inside out and know exactly what you're about, but for a lot of new viewers as well, we're going to touch on all the achievements. But what was it like growing up in Barnsley?
Well, I grew up in quite a poor family, I suppose. My father was a miner. My mother worked very hard to support a family of 3, and she cleaned other people's houses, which I found quite embarrassing because it was other kids in my class whose parents' houses she was cleaning. But they were very hard-working, working-class people, and I'm so proud of who they were because they really kind of gave me the foundations for my life. I've always felt eternally blessed for that start in that I was adopted as well. So they adopted me as a small child, and then another little boy, and then finally they had their own birth child as well. So we were a family of 3. And as an adopted child, I've never felt any different across my whole family. But I'm so grateful for that start. And what they taught me was that I was special because I'd been chosen. And I think that's stuck with me ever since. And it's made me very aware of the adoption and fostering process, which has been interesting for me as a hairdresser because I've had an opinion that I can talk to clients about that. And, you know, as my career took off and I got some form of notoriousness, I realized that I could lend my voice and support causes. So I'm very proud to be a patron of the British Association of Adoption and Fostering, and I work with that charity to create awareness for that charity, and it's amazing work.
And I'm going to let these two guys come in a sec. Just one more thing, just as that growing up, and then you just said when you realised that you had a voice and you were making a difference. When was that, though? When did you realise? I remember watching you I'm going to go back to probably 86, 87, Ardsley House, which is
Okay.
now knocked down in Barnes. It's an housing estate. Which
Wow,
most,
your memory's big, Simon.
yes, and there's other parts of my autonomy that's quite large as well. But I think the thing with that was I watched is that there was you went on stage with Chris Moody and you for our dear friend Denise Moody as well up in Barnsley. It struck me at that point though that you were slightly different. You were kind of a perfectionist on stage because sometimes on stage we can't do that perfection because you're entertaining as well as doing it. But when did it sit to you that I'm different here? My career is not just a stylist anymore. I'm on TV. I've just won British Hairdresser of the Year. Which part of your career did it drop, Andrew, that you think, I've done all right so far now?
Yeah.
It's happening.
I'm not sure. I'm really not sure. And there's been so many moments that have been inspiring to me and have made me think about things quite deeply. and one of those moments, you've led me into it, was being named the British Hairdresser of the Year, you know, in front of 1,000 hairdressers in a swanky Park Lane hotel with all my friends, peers, colleagues, family. My mother sat next to me. And the stroke of midnight and the shout, you know, it still fills me up to think about it now. But I think what happened very, very quickly after the hangover and a few days later, I realized that having been given a title like that, being awarded a title like that, it's not something you can buy. You don't even enter to become British Hairdresser of the Year. You're nominated. So that in itself is huge, that people respect your work. I realized that being named British Hairdresser came with a huge responsibility, and that was to represent British hairdressing as being the very best. And I took that year of owning that title and that crown very, very seriously in everything that I did.
Can I just come in on that one? Sorry, Barry, just quickly. You mentioned about like the responsibility that came with that, and often when people win major awards, it's all about them. It's all about the ego. But actually, you noticed the responsibility. You had to take that, and you had to act as that person that won that award. You had to carry that for the year, which
Yeah.
is a lot of pressure. I think it's fair to be said.
I'd say so.
Yeah.
How much would you say, just going back to your upbringing, because I keep getting this word in my head, you're grounded, right? That answer about the British Hairdresser of the Year, you're grounded. Everybody that knows you or have heard of you or viewers, they know that you're grounded. How much of your upbringing made you grounded? Because a lot of people nowadays, they expect everything yesterday. They expect, that instant
Yeah.
gratification. They don't want to work their way up in the career. They
How
don't-
long was your overnight success?
That's it. That's it, exactly.
How long did it actually take?
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's still going on. I mean, what do you judge success by? And I think what I've realized as I've got older is success is about happiness. And
So it's changed.
it has, and happiness comes for me now in my life around choice and having choice in what I do. One of the most fulfilling days of my working life is still standing behind the chair one day a week with my clients. I call them my girls, and many of them have been with me for 20, 30 years, and some are new, and some come and visit me once or twice a year. So
Where is that now, Andrew? Where are you? Putting?
so I work with Kerner in the UK as the creative ambassador for the UK at their flagship store in Holborn in London, and the salon is owned and run by a fantastic Scottish group of salons called Bloom. So I see clients there, and it's one of my favourite days of the week. But going back to your question, yeah, I think a lot of it does come back to my very humble roots, excuse the pun, off a council estate, very working class. Dad had 3 jobs, and his time with us was very limited. He died very young. I was only 15 when he died. But when he had downtime, what he did was he would still have his manly tasks of cutting the lawn and cleaning the car. But he got all 3 of us involved with that. And he'd say, come on, kids, help me with this. And then we can go to the park. Then we can go to the river. Then we can go to the forest. So I was definitely taught about the importance of work. And yeah, it's really been a big focus for me.
Do you think that's an area of concern moving forward for tomorrow's stylists, that there is this air of expectation, there is this, instant gratification that's demanded?
No, not for me. And I mean, the young people that I work with, teenagers and early 20s and things. For me, it's all about me just getting to understand what makes them tick and how they work. And I get really angry and annoyed by people of my generation or a couple of generations below me. Say, oh, it wasn't like that when I was that age.
Yeah.
Bullshit. Do you mean it's all about finding out what inspires somebody to be the best that they can be? So no, I'm not really in that school of thought. I don't think there's really any difference at all.
What a lot of people don't realise as well is we both grew up, and Rob, we all grew up in Barnsley. Chris Moody, Stephen Moody, we all came, and it's just a rich crop of people that came out who have won British Hairdresser of the Year, both Andrew and Rob, and people who are holding global positions down. We've done a lot of Barnsley boys features.
Yeah.
And I think, if you get your finger out, you should be doing a lot more with Fellowship with the Barnsley boys as well.
Noted.
Utilising that a lot more than what you're doing.
That's
Well,
just
the
been
fact
that
recorded
the
as
three-
well.
What
we've
people
got,
didn't realise
three
is-
on the board
What-
is unusual.
Yeah, it is. Well, my grandparents grew up in Royston, where Andrew's from. So a lot of my younger years was in Royston at weekends when my parents, I was only child, which you probably can tell. But a lot of my younger years from being probably 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 were in Royston at weekends. But somebody asked me a question, because I think always when you run about humble backgrounds and stuff, who inspired, and you can met, you said, with the Relentless book and people,
Yes.
and we've got some questions for you about in the industry coming up. But I have to say, and this is an hard one for me to say, I think it's your grandparents that had they were such good people. They just did the right thing.
Yeah.
My mum and dad's
Yeah.
parents, my mum's parents, and my dad's parents, they're just old school. So when people say, I like that, they just had discipline. They had rules. They had they looked after you. They put the family first. They were just such good people. And I think that I was lucky enough not to lose my grandparents till I were in my 20s, 30s. And that really helped me from that. So I get it. There weren't loads of money about.
Everyone has their own story of life. Do you mean? And it's personal to them. I think another thing that's motivated me and inspired me and kept me pushing forward in my work is I was bullied through school, and it was pretty horrendous. But I made choices quite early on that I was never going to let bullying be a stamp
Define
on
you.
me and define me. Exactly. And now, I'm really proud that I work with the UK's anti-bullying charity that helps and supports children that are going through those horrendous things that happen to them that could define their lives.
Yeah.
So, adoption, bullying, coming out as gay. Do you mean there's been so many aspects of my personal life that I chose not to define me and kind of take me down or become a negative. In fact, I've used them as positives to drive me forward.
So with all that determination, how did you get your first TV break?
I slept with a director.
Right.
No, I did not. It was a casting couch moment. And I got the gig.
I like the honesty.
No,
Is that another career that you'd like to tell us about? Or?
Yes. I was asked to go to an audition. It was for Lorraine Kelly for The Breakfast Show, and it was a makeover. And I got the gig, and then I worked on Lorraine for about 5 years doing breakfast time TV, and I cut my teeth there. I really learned a lot about the speed of TV and production, and that was amazing. I made some great friends who are still lifelong friends. And then there was the new TV show being made called 10 Years Younger, which was on Channel 4.
Yeah.
I got asked to go to a casting for it. And again, I was thrilled and lucky enough to get the position as the hairdresser. We filmed that show over 8 years. It became a great British export. It was on around the world, still is, still on repeat, which is a bit odd looking at yourself 10 years older. At its peak, we were doing 10 million viewers a week. And the thing that I loved about 10 Years Younger in particular was I learned a lot, because it made me realize the power that a hairdresser has to not only transform how someone looks, but how they feel about themselves. It also made me realize that despite the surgery and the dental work and the fashion and the makeup and everything else and the tens of thousands that were spent on surgery, it was the hair that made this huge difference. And they'd turn that mirror around and she'd see herself for the first time. And it was completely honest and true. It was the first time she'd seen herself. She'd go, oh, my hair, my hair. And the directors would be sat in the corner going, please talk about the £30,000 worth of
we
surgery.
spent on restructuring you.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right, we're going to film that again. And this time, can you mention your surgery? And the mirror would turn, the cameras would go, she go, oh, Barty, my hair, Barty, my hair. And the lovely thing was, the industry was so kind to me and so supportive around that show and appreciative, because they said, thank you, Andrew, because you're representing hairdressing in a great light by not
And
only
you've
the
made a
hair that you,
difference.
and you've made a difference. So
I mean, we could
It's
take Andrew
fantastic.
back all them years when we go up to do Aircon in Manchester. We're having can we say it?
Yes.
Yeah, we're doing a live style challenge, which the producers are part of that show. So that's going to be like taking the years back, where you get two people out in the public and
I was
do a makeover in an hour.
exactly. Well, I was talking to the producers about it a couple of weeks ago, and the interesting thing is that's actually where my TV work did start, was on Style Challenge, which was a daytime TV show of makeovers, and I filmed on the very last series of that before it was finished. So yeah, happy memories. Happy memories. Thank you for asking these questions.
Can I touch on it? You just mentioned about, of all the makeovers, of all the different facets of it, it was the hair that there was the obvious one that the candidate, if you like, or the person really felt more strongest about. So the social significance of hair is apparent, which is leading me to beehives,
Bobs
bobs,
and
and blow dries. Thank you for finishing it, because I was
You've
slightly
got to be
concerned
very careful.
all morning in front of the mirror, and you've just helped me there. But I got 2 out of 3. That's
Although
great.
I'd like to go to that other show.
Yes, we'll talk about that one later. But that's an interesting one for me, because, you know, I look at it from a magazine perspective. I look at it as you've identified the social significance, the cultural impact of hair. Tell us a bit more about that. Phenomenal experience, I'd imagine.
Yeah, I mean, we've now landed 2 public exhibitions in art galleries under the banner of Beehives, Bobs and Blow Dries. And Beehives, Bobs and Blow Dries came about as a concept and an idea with a friend of mine that I grew up with on that same council estate. Her mother was the local village hairdresser, Pam's Unisex Salon, where my grandmother and mother went every week and were transformed from these working class women to what I thought looked like Elizabeth Taylor.
Glamour puss.
Glamour Hollywood starlets. And they'd have this do for a week that they kind of scratched their heads with a knitting needle and didn't move it. So that her mother was Pam, the hairdresser, who looked after mum and grandma. And her name is Donna Bevan. And Donna went on to become quite a respected and established academic. And she lectures at university, and she's a researcher. And together, over many dinners and bottles of wine, we realised there was a story to be told about hairdressing, and British hairdressing in particular. So what Beehives, Bobs and Blow Dries does, it narrates the history of British hairdressing over the last 70 years. Not necessarily the personalities, but more about the social, the cultural, the fashion aspects of how hair defined and how hairstyle defined a decade. So
And as you can see,
yeah,
I'm still trapped in the 80s.
that's nothing wrong
So
with that.
that's why them knitting needles are in your dressing room.
I was
Yes.
wondering.
Yeah, because he has had that
Yeah,
haircut.
I have been on a crocheting course, but it's basically
I tried
for
to go
itching my
into
head.
his wallet, not to get any money out because he spent it all on watches, but just to get the Peter Stringfellow photograph that he takes into the salon and says, just like that. Just like that. Oh.
If it makes him happy, that's
It makes
all
him
that matters.
extremely happy, because if
Absolutely.
you're walking around with that haircut, you've got to be confident and you've got to be happy. There is no other way around it. Andrew, moving on. So we had this great.
Can I just
upbringing.
finish
Yeah,
on Beehives, Bobs and
of course.
Blow Dries? We are currently in conversation, very deep, actually. We're in development to bring Beehives, Bobs and Blow Dries, the exhibition, to TV as a documentary.
Wow.
So it's exciting, and I hope to be able to share that exclusively with Fellowship later this year.
Super.
Oh, that's going to be
fantastic.
good. You have to put that on your agenda. The gaffer's
Noted.
got to put it on the agenda for us all.
Noted already.
Hey, just a quick question for you, as Andrew, this golden nugget question.
Yes.
How difficult is it when the fellowship board meetings when you've got 3 Barnsley lads in there?
Well, obviously there's a translator. That's first and foremost.
I know,
you
because
all have
Andrew
your
and
own
Rob are quite
conversations.
strong, aren't they? Their
Yes,
accents
they
are
are.
quite strong.
They are.
I'm all right, but they do struggle a bit.
Yeah, but there's definitely a northern powerhouse evolving around the table, which is nice to see.
Yeah, I think it is as well. And
Isn't it fascinating talking about accents, and we've got a Scouse and someone from Scotland, and we're actually, not the sort of the butt of the joke.
May I
here.
add, I'm a posh Scouser, which
Yeah.
is a total contradiction in terms as there's no such thing.
Well,
However,
as you know, my groom-to-be is a posh
he
Scouser
is
as well. So.
He is.
we'll talk about the captain in a short while. I'm sure he's getting ready, crunching through all the numbers that you've racked up
Spend.
over the last 6 months. So we've had this amazing upbringing in Barnsley. We've then gone from the salon in Barnsley, and I'd love to, I always like to push our own town salons. Denise Mood is it in Darfield, little village it is outside Barnsley, not even in town centre, but they've produced some really good people over the years. Yourself, Chris, and Stephen as well, who's Weller, is he now? Is he international creative director over in America? We've moved into then TV stuff. You've won British Hairdresser of the Year, and things are going great here. And things are starting to move, like you've arrived and, people know who you are. You've won the biggest award you can win within this industry. You've had a massive longevity on TV program, which is, when we've all done little bits, it's like you have to be good to keep coming back in anything that you do. So we're moving on where we are now, and we've changed a few things. You're getting married at the weekend. You've touched on this, how happiness is kind of like your wealth now. It's like that's how you measure how well you're doing in life. Just on a scale of 1 to 10 to let everybody know, Andrew Barton, right now, how happy are you? How do you feel right now?
I'm really happy. I couldn't wish for anything more. Yeah.
And he's a lovely guy.
Yeah, and thank you. And Phil is an incredible, and we get married on the 5th anniversary of our first ever date together.
Oh, wow.
Stop it. Let's go back to work.
Well, tell you what, because me and Barry and David aren't invited,
Yeah, we were.
can you send me some WhatsApps?
Okay, all
just send me a few
What's
Is it a
WhatsApp.
live stream or something?
Well,
like that?
probably.
Yeah.
Knowing him. Be live from Las
David's
Vegas.
not told you he is invited.
Oh, I won't put it past him. Me and Baz are left there holding a bill or something.
Yeah, Billy no mates again.
Right, back to work then. People watching, we're at the Fellowship, and part of your role on the board as well is, there's so many. I just think we're on a big transition in this industry from all the big names that's out there. I'm 53, you're in your 50s, Errol. There's a lot of people that we know that grew with, that we've really pushed that forward for the last 20, 30 years. Well, I know I have. I think some of you struggled a bit. But with that, though, we've got this next breed coming through. And sometimes I look at it and think it's a little bit watery. We need to get the real next generation, the youth. And I know you do a lot with your Able in colleges and things like that. What's your golden nugget advice to somebody who's going to watch this? Because we want to put it out to colleges and stuff. What's the gem advice, Andrew, that you can say to somebody? If they want to be like you, or do what I've done, or do what Rob does, or anybody else that we know in this industry. We've got some amazing barbers coming in, Tarek and all these people. What's your advice, though, to them people watching now?
I think if anybody's watched or heard me on a broadcast before, forgive me for repeating myself, but I've said this so many times, so it's quite an easy answer for me to give to you. And it goes back to my apprenticeship. And Denise, the woman that taught me, was tough and really kind of trained her people brilliantly. But her advice to me as a 17-year-old boy was never accept okay as a standard. And at that time in life, I don't think I fully knew what that meant, but I've took that with me ever since. And it has been a guiding light. Even the guys that are doing the production today at CS Media, I've worked with so many times. They know that when I work with them and film with them, that I will never accept okay as a standard. And that was some of the best information that I was ever given. And I think for hairdressers, we know that if a client is sat in that chair and she says it's okay, it means she is not coming back. It means she doesn't love it. It means she's not going to tell anybody to come and visit you. In fact, she's going to tell them not to come and visit you because it was only okay. So I've used that as a professional guiding light, and I've also used it in my personal life as well. So I work hard for every pound and penny that's in my wallet. And when I go out to eat, to dine, or whether I'm buying something, it has to be more than okay. And when I teach people, my guide from that minute I step into a class is that at the end of that day, they don't walk away thinking that was okay.
Yeah.
Because it's not. Then I'd be mortified.
And I know anything that we've worked with you on where we've asked you to turn up, short notice, you've turned up, you've been the ultimate professional. We know the job will be done. And that, for somebody like me who has to book and rely on people to do things, that is huge.
Thank you, Murray. That's very
people
kind.
you have to book through the
Multiple
fellowship.
people.
You do.
Like,
But I think it is important that you've got lots of different. I see it now being heavily involved on fellowship. How many people want to come and do demos for us, work for us? The selection process is tough. It makes it so much easier when you think reliable, professional, spot on. You're going to get 8s, 9s, 10s out of 10s every time you use him or her.
Yeah.
That makes the decision a lot more easier.
I do think as well, just I'm processing things as we're chatting. And I do think it's very easy for an older generation to look at a younger generation and consider them either not equal or not worthy or good enough. But you know what? Just part of the process of life, they will make their own stamp and they will grow and develop the same as we did. You know, when I was in my early 20s and I was just embarking on a career in hairdressing, at that point, I didn't understand where it was going to go. I didn't know the fellowship would know who I was one day. And there would have been older generations that looked at me and kind of just thought, oh, what's he messing around at? And he's not taking it that seriously.
Yeah.
So I do think that trust is a really beautiful word to hold in our hearts and in our lives. And I do think we have to trust that younger generation to show us what they will do, how they will do it. And we have to embrace that.
I think you're spot on. And one thing, I don't know how much time you spend with the magazines inside colleges, but no, we are doing quite a lot now. But we did the finishing school. And you know, the last day when we did the presentation,
presentations, yeah.
that's when it really dawned on me. I thought, hey, when I was 18, 19, I couldn't do what they're doing. So hang on a minute. This week's taught me so much. So maybe we have to put all that focus now on things like we want the college. We want that young trade.
We think we've got all the answers, and we haven't got all the answers at all. And that's what does anger me and frustrates me a lot about the industry. Because everybody thinks they've got their ideas the best, and everybody's jockeying for the front, and that's that, and it's why I also set up the ABLE Training Scholarship Programme in further education colleges, because I got so sick and tired of listening to hairdressers berating further education lecturers and colleges and calling them rubbish when I knew that was not true. And I was like, okay, if there is a difference, a disparity, then let's create a bridge.
Yeah.
Let's not just keep calling names. Let's do something about it.
They're saying as well what they say, when I was at college, well, how long ago is that? 20 years. Mate, you need to get back in.
Yes.
You need to go back in and look
changed.
at facilities. When you go into most of the college, Starbucks in reception.
Yeah,
the hairdressing salons aren't done out like they used to be. They're done out like commercial salons. The education that the lecturers do because of CPD, what they have to have outside is just improves so much. So I think I completely agree. Do you have one of the? I don't know about you guys. I don't definitely know what you're saying, but you said something there that so when you earn all your money, so when you come and then spend your money, you expect that same level of winning mentality, high service, the very best. You heard what he said as well. Do not accept okay. I love it.
Yeah,
My biggest fault in life is I have OCD and my standard is so high. I can hear it now when I go in places like, I just heard it. He's not going to like that, and he's going to complain about that. And he's going to complain about the hotel because everything it's me. It's not just on set. It's off set. It's in the toilet area. Everything. I just want you to tell him because he's paying for dinner tonight. So I want you to.
Yeah, we're going to Burger King.
No.
There's some great Burger King.
I took him out for dinner. So tonight we want the very best in Covent Garden. So just when we've offsetting the agreement, we just tell him the nicest restaurants.
Yeah.
We can go to tonight.
Did you think he was going there with that?
No, nobody knew where I'm going with it.
And if
That's
you're
why it
free,
came-
obviously,
That's
welcome to come along with us.
me.
That's why it came in. I've got another interesting question to ask you. I'm going to put you on the spot here. You're away on honeymoon
Right.
with your captain. You've had a beautiful, beautiful wedding. You and Phil's enjoying yourself, and you get a call from a good friend in Barnsley. Says, Andrew, I know you're away. I've got this massive, amazing occasion to go to, and I need my hair cutting. Which hairdresser in the UK would you put your friend into? What I'm trying to say is, who's your favourite hairdresser?
Who's my favourite hairdresser? Wow, that's a
Have you
really.
ever been asked that question before?
I've never been asked that question
You're
before.
not leaving this studio till
And
you
it's
answer.
the locks on the door.
very
The locks on the
awkward.
door. You've got to do it because
You're
I think
staying
it's
here.
important that I'm
Who
wondering.
would you trust?
Okay, I think I'd answer that question for that person, thinking about that person's personality, because it's not just about hairdressing skill.
Mm-hmm.
It's also about the rapport that person has with that client. Because at the end of the day, a great haircut, all these amazing hairdressers in the UK, all the hairdressers in the UK, we all do hair good.
Who's your
But
favourite, though?
it's the rapport that we have
I
with
want to-
clients.
who's your
I'm telling you, I
favourite
cannot
hairdresser?
answer that question because it's the rapport that we have and therefore the understanding of that
Can I
client's
break it
needs.
down a little bit
And
for
some
you?
people will handle that differently to others.
I'm going to try one
Diplomacy
more
right here.
tactic here.
Diplomacy. United
Yes.
Nations are looking for
It
all
we
that.
should be in
Yeah.
Parliament just down
Yeah.
the
I'm
road
on the
here.
executive board of the Fellowship. I've got to be diplomatic.
One more.
Fellowship of United
So if
Nations,
somebody
yeah.
said, I want to go to London and my hair's cut and I want a colour doing. Who would you send them into for colouring?
So my team at Kerner, we have some amazing colour artists that look after my clients.
It's not controversial, is it?
There's nothing controversial about Andrew Barton. There never has been.
And if somebody wanted like a nice pixie cut and you're going to send them into anywhere in country, might be in Leeds, might be in Barnsley, might be Sheffield,
Again,
Liverpool.
Simon, I think a lot of that depends on which. Honestly, I process it completely different because it would depend of which camp and style of hairdressing you actually come from, whether it's more the Sassoon kind of style of hairdressing or perhaps the Tony and Guy kind of style of hairdressing, which are quite different. So for me, it would be about processing,
It's matching them up.
matching them up. And the biggest complaint that happens in hairdressing salons, and I understand this because I've spent most of my career working in large salon groups where we look at data all the time. The biggest amount of complaints come through. It's not about the technical aspects
Was
of
it
the
the
colour.
interaction?
It was the interaction
Or
or lack of.
Yeah.
The lack of personalization, and also that big, massive one that the industry's been talking about for decades since I was a kid. They don't get the advice that they expected from a professional. And how many hairdressers listening to this can put their hand on their heart and say that they absolutely, every single client, recommend product to take home, recommend the right colour or transformative service. It does not happen. I know it doesn't happen, and anybody can write in and say, well, where you do it.
No.
It does not happen 100% of all the time. And consistency is absolutely the key to success.
Do you know one of the easiest questions to conquer this? Whenever any of your clients are leaving, let's just, because you hear this a lot. I've not had much training on retail sales. I've not been shown these, and it's like we know that the good salons get the companies in to train them. Ask this one question to every client that leaves: will you wash your hair in between visits?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Will you style your hair in between visits? And if both of them questions are yes,
Yeah.
and you've not done any kind of service to them, they're going somewhere else
to buy
to
them.
buy them, and you're not doing your job properly.
Absolutely. You know, I've realised that over the years, I'm not one of those people in the salon that gets around products and smell this and this is what it does. And I just ask one simple question every single bloody client that I do. And it's so easy. What products do you need at home? and she either tells me or she doesn't need anything, and then that
But
leads
you've asked
me
the
into. I've
question.
asked the question, and that's what I'm saying to listeners, guys. Unless you ask that question, you are not doing your
I
job as professionally as
completely
you
agree.
could.
We did it on the finishing school day, one we were like soft skills, but I was saying stuff to them what made up my difference in dimensions were from an early age, and same thing with Bill and Bern. Their training was so disciplined and strong and good, but there was some of the other stuff that if you'd be in reception and it were busy, dimensions in them days in 80s were busy, lots of perms coming in, and Bill would be at reception, he'd be there and like, go and open door. Client coming in, go and close door.
Yeah,
And it was soft
absolutely.
skills, and I learned that. But what I did used to do, I used to get more tips than everybody else.
Yeah.
So I'd talk to everybody's clients. I'd open
I'd-
doors. I'd remember the coffee and
Absolutely,
coffees.
Simon. I laugh all the time. If I had my way, I would rip out every single reception desk in every salon across the UK, because all it is a barrier to a client, and people just sit behind it, either daydreaming or looking at the computer or looking at the phone or looking out the window, and then a client walks in and says. She walks in and she walks over to the desk, and the person behind the desk says, "Have you got an appointment?" Of course I've got an appointment. That's why I came in here.
Yes.
Do you mean it? The psychology and the business of haircutting and colouring and hairdressing is sometimes what we miss.
Do you always think to that clip of planes, trains, and automobiles when he gets to get his rental car from the airport and she's on the telephone and she can see? That drives me mad when I go into any establishment, because for me it's like, oh, sorry, I've got a customer, because I'm there.
Yeah.
But she didn't even lift her head up. She pointed her finger like, wait a moment. It's like, if that ever happens to me, I'm like, slap the hand
bite
out
it
away.
off.
Yes.
Yeah.
But does that not all come back to you said about anything that you do? You work so hard, like your upbringing's molded you into the person you are. You stay grounded. Do you not think that's all part of this acceptance of okay? Like for me, what you guys have been speaking about is the experience. The experience when you go into the salon or
Yeah.
barber shop or wherever it may be, it's so much more than just the hair.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
so is this a tolerance of okay that we need to overcome ultimately?
I guess it is. I guess it is, David. I think you're right. Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
I mean, my concern is future talent now, identifying future talent. How do we do that easily?
I think what Fellowship is doing easily is through its different teams
With the projects.
but with the projects is doing something fantastic, because it's identifying people that have got strengths in certain areas. It's developing that skill set. And each year it's kind of seeing a continuation of new blood coming
Yes.
through. So I think that is key. I think in support of many of the manufacturers as well, many of the manufacturers are identifying talent that they're coming through as well. Because there is space and room for people to develop their careers. So I think a lot of talent is already being developed, and I think savvy salon owners will also push their talent forward, because they will appreciate and understand that that's how they will keep their team happy and developing, and therefore becoming more successful in their business.
Okay. Well, that's excellent advice.
Just on that, and I don't want to fill your head with any more ego, right? But that's something that Wahl did very, very well recently at the Barber Connect event, because rather than, the traditional Barber of the Year, British Barber of the Year, British Barbershop of the Year, you actually made a point of asking certain people in the industry to identify potential rising stars. So I think what you've both got at there is that sometimes we actually do need to go into the talent pool,
Yeah.
pull out one or two that we are identifying, saying, do you know what, they've got the makings of a superstar, but perhaps they're not being pushed towards
Or give them the
stardom.
guidance systems that are.
And that's something I've got to say, Simon. Rising Star Award that Wahl brought in this year for barbers was a fantastic way of
Nice.
doing that, because
Like
you
you
hand
said at the
selected.
presentation at the finishing school, where you got the stigma that kids in colleges are not employable. Well, that was
Nice.
blown out the water.
Yeah, and especially
completely.
when if they get an opportunity to do that week as well. But it did blow me away the level of where they were.
Already.
And with me, I hear this all the time. Oh, once we get them out of college, it takes us 6 months to get them to do stuff. I don't think that's the case anymore. I think they have to adapt to your ways of doing stuff in a salon or a barber shop. But I think we turn them around quite quick. Andrew, it's amazing to speak to you. And I know you've got a busy week this week with the wedding, and I'm looking forward, joking apart, to looking at the photographs because we weren't invited. So we will be looking at all those with.
I'll send them to him on
We want a
WhatsApp.
nice cake shot.
Yeah, well, it just saves on travel expenses, I suppose.
Tell Phil, obviously, his budgeting didn't stretch to me and Barry, but we'll do that. We're going to finish off with a little bit personality questions as well to finish off with. This last question, and then the others are quick fire, but if you could relive one day in your career, which day would you want to relive again?
One day. There's been too many good days. There's been too many good days.
It's got to be one that stands out, though.
Walking down the shelves of a supermarket and seeing my own brand on shelf.
Do you know what? I love that one. I had
I'm
the
in
same
the
feeling. Not in a
proudest.
supermarket, but-
And let me just tell you a little story. I remember I'd just launched the hair care range in a major supermarket in the UK, and I'd gone home to visit Mum in Yorkshire. And I walked into the kitchen and I went, "I'll make tea, Mum, I'll make tea." And I opened the cupboard where the mugs were, and it was just full of Andrew Barton shampoo instead. And I just went, "Mum, what on earth's all this?" And she went, "Oh, son, I go every day and I buy one bottle." And I just went, "It's in like 1,000 stores nationwide. It's not going to make any difference, Mum." And do you know what was so lovely? She got to know the people in the aisle, the shelf packers, so well that when she died, they actually sent flowers to her funeral.
Oh,
What a nice memory.
Nice.
She was supporting the cause.
Love
yeah,
that.
that's
Love that.
nice. That.
Yeah.
Do you have any tattoos?
No.
Oh, that's a surprise. I
Or
imagine.
piercings.
Oh, I didn't ask that, but tea or coffee?
Tea.
Cats or dogs?
Dogs.
Good
I've got a
answer.
beagle. Come on.
Night in or night out?
Night in.
Night in. Wow. Well, he's
I'm honestly,
Jeez,
if I
yeah.
can be in bed by 8 o'clock, 8:30, it's the best
Game
day of the
on.
week. But on the other hand, I'm usually up at 5 every morning as well.
If you want to see some more Andrew's work, we'll put some links on here and some social media angles for you to have a look at some of Andrew's amazing work over the years as well. But it's been brilliant having him on the final cut. Thank you. I know it's a busy week. I really appreciate
Yeah, we
you
do
coming in.
appreciate you
Thank you.
coming in.
But again, the amazing Mr. Andrew Barton.
Thank you.
Well done.
Thanks, Andrew.